Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Of course, the 2024 election's in full swing. And yes, age is an issue. I'm a grown man running against a 6-year-old.
President Biden starting us off for a second week in a row here on A Satellite View. Thanks for listening to this episode. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from April 28th, Sunday, April 28th, 2024 in the Space and Time Continuum. And we're talking about the doom and gloom, doom and despair intervention. I talked a little bit last week about being too optimistic, myself being too optimistic sometimes. But what I'm trying to do here and what we're trying to do on this show is a doom and despair intervention. I saw a talk about this, Words to Win By, one of the founders of Words to Win By. They are running an ad that talks about this. It is a studied and well-known method of authoritarianism to make you feel like you're powerless. Things are so bad, there's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter. That's how they try and get you to not vote. I found it interesting that I decided to do this as a theme, I think on Thursday or Friday. It really made a lot of sense to me because it's so congruent to what we're doing here. You hear about all these bad things going on, and then I'm telling you what the good things are. You got to dig to find the good things because the bad things are out in the open because it helps regular legacy media keep their viewership. Bots and trolls are only looking for your clicks, so they're all over the place. I think they're becoming less and less potent, certainly to the people who are more and more informed. I found it interesting that I chose this as a theme, and we want to talk about this a little bit more and go into some details. But last night's press correspondence dinner, a yearly thing, the president gets roasted, but he also comes up and tells a few jokes, has a little bit of fun with the press. Joe Biden did that. I played you the clip I already played you, joking around a little bit. But then here's what he said, and I found it interesting because it's very congruent to what we're talking about here today. Here's what he said later on in the speech.
I'm sincerely not asking of you to take sides, but asking you to rise up to the seriousness of the moment. Move past the horse race numbers and the gotcha moments and the distractions, the sideshows that have come to dominate and sensationalize our politics. And focus on what's actually at stake. And I think in your hearts you know what's at stake. The stakes couldn't be higher. Every single one of us has a role to play, a serious role to play, in making sure democracy endures, American democracy. I have my role, but with all due respect, so do you. In the age of disinformation, credible information that people can trust is more important than ever. And that makes you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, makes you more important than ever. So tonight, I'd like to make a toast to a free press, to an informed citizenry, to an America where freedom and democracy endure. God bless America.
And that is basically Thomas Jefferson's language from the time of the founding, the time of the revolution. We need a free press, and we need an informed citizenry. That's why you're listening to this show. That's what you want to be. You want to be an informed citizen. I mean, there was a lot of disinformation back then, too. I was going to say it's a lot more difficult to find true information these days. It was difficult back then, too. And all throughout the existence of this country, we are going to touch on that legacy media is doing a better job toward the end of this show when we're talking about happy things. But right now we're talking about the despair, doom scrolling. My wife Heidi said to me sometime this last week, she just has to take a break from Twitter. She's going down Twitter and she's seeing all these things. She's seeing these horrible people saying things about, yes, 12-year-old girl has to have her rapist's baby. You know, why was she in that situation? You know, she brought it on. You know, people saying just horrible, vile things. And Heidi said to me, you know, it's hard for me to see that these people are alive, that there are these people that say such horrible and think such horrible things, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the bad news. And that's just how authoritarianism works. They keep you down. You know, right now we've got all these bad news. The Supreme Court trying to delay everything for Trump. It's obviously bought. The Supreme Court is very corrupt right now. Everyone knows it. They know that everyone knows it, and they seem to be ignoring it. And that's scary. It seems like they think they're going to have supreme power. Well, they're called the Supreme Court, I guess. But the ironic thing is, if Trump gets what he wants, if he does this whole Project 2025, which is another scary thing, the Supreme Court will have no power. He will take it all away from them. I don't know why they're supporting him. I don't think they're going to give him total immunity, but they're delaying their decision so that that trial, they're trying to make it so that that trial does not take place before Election Day. The Arizona Republicans blocking even discussion on the 1864 abortion law. First, the state Supreme Court says, yeah, let's go back to the 1864 abortion law where doctors get thrown in jail if they perform an abortion. And even if it's rape or incest, no abortion is allowed. An almost complete ban on abortion. And then it was brought up in the legislature, hey, we should discuss this and maybe block this ruling. And the Republicans blocked that discussion to block the ruling and then cheered for themselves after they were speaking in tongues, doing some sort of prayer demonstration on the floor of their legislature. These are the kind of things that my wife Heidi was saying. She just hates to see that kind of thing even in existence. Marjorie Taylor Greene and the things she says. And like Joe Biden mentioned, the media trying to keep the horse race going. The hope that Trump will win the trials. CNN, by the way, that's what they're doing. Eli Honig, I think is his name. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's a lawyer. I've seen him a few different places, but he's a CNN political correspondent, whatever, a regular guest on CNN. And he's just, in my view, about 80% absolutely full of BS. And he's trying to say, you know, the defense really made a dent. I think they really could, you know, this could really be a good thing for Trump. I think they really hurt the prosecution in their cross-examination of David Pecker. If you read the transcript of the actual hearing, that's absolute BS. They're desperate. Their cross-examination was just desperate and pathetic compared to the prosecution's case they're building using David Pecker on the stand. He absolutely mutilated Trump and said over and over again, including in the cross-examination, was this to cover up the story from Trump's wife and family, or was it just for the campaign? And he said, he never mentioned wife and family. I thought it was for the campaign. You know, he wasn't going to actually make a move on this story until he was running for president. The event happened, you know, almost 10 years ago. He's never tried to cover it up before. The jury hears all that. Trump is going to be found guilty on, I think, all counts in this current trial. And I'm not going to call it the Stormy Daniels trial or the hush money trial because it is the election fraud trial. He covered up major parts of himself so that the American voters would not know these major things about him that make him vulnerable as president to bribery and extortion. He, in fact, did invite David Pecker to the White House for a dinner to thank him for not telling the stories. David Pecker also said, if I would have came out with the Karen McDougal story a few weeks before the election, it would have been the biggest boom for us ever. We would have made an extra millions, multi-millions of dollars off of that story, and we could have milked it for months. But no, I paid $150,000. I paid $150,000 for the story, and then I never ran it. So instead of making an extra multi-million dollars, it cost me $150,000. That's very devastating. And that's part of the reality. So I'm telling you the real story as opposed to what you're hearing. And the horse races, the polls. You've heard me talk about the polls many times. Here's a poll. The Poly Market It's not really even a poll. It's actual information about what people are betting on in this presidential election. So it's real. It's what people are putting their money where their mouth is. These are people making big bets, which happens every election cycle. It's not talked about very much. And of course, it often, almost always, goes against what the polls are saying, as do the election results. Remember that in all of these elections that have been going on since Trump, including the 2016 election, all of the polls have been completely wrong. The results show that. And this poly market, it is the betting, it's what people bet on. And right now, what people are betting on as far as holding the House of Representatives, Democrats are at 57%, Republicans are at 44%. That's quite a huge margin. And that's real. That's not somebody calling 1,000 people in rural Pennsylvania asking them who they're going to support without any Gen Z input. Because Gen Z, you've heard me say it a million times, they don't answer their phone. They are not a part of any of these polls. Now you see the polls slowly shifting where Biden is pulling ahead on many, many of the polls. Think about how much more he would be ahead if Gen Z was part of those polls. What I'm saying is those polls are still wrong, but they're wrong in the other direction from what you would think. Biden's winning by like 4 points in many polls right now. What if Gen Z was in those polls? What if more people of color were part of those polls? I think Joe Biden would be winning by 20 points or more. Who knows? But no, it's the horse race. They're nose and nose. They're neck and neck. Biden's pulling ahead by a nose. Now a neck. That's what they want. They want to... We did this last week, right? Go along with me here. Hum along with me. Biden's coming up to Trump. Nose to nose. Biden's pulling ahead by a nose. They want that to go on until November because that's exciting. The final moments of the horse race. Come on. We can dig a little deeper than that. And I'll help you. Listen to this show. I'll dig deeper and I'll tell you what's going on. Another thing that is happening with Trump in the courts is he's looking very weak and feeble, whiny and crazy. He repeats everything. This trial should have never been brought. It should have never been filed. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. Many say the worst thing that's ever happened to the country. I'm actually sounding more vigorous than he is. He's talking more. This trial should have never been filed. Many people say it. He's very low key, falling asleep. He looks like absolute hell. His eyebrows look so tense, trying to keep his eyes open. It just looks painful now. His face looks painful. His whole forehead is in pain, trying to keep his eyes open with his eyebrows. And then his sort of circle of turning more and more brown and less orange that he puts on his face, getting further and further away from his ears. You can just see it's a circle. It's not actually applied makeup to your head. It's just sort of a circle. Yeah. It's not going well for Trump. And more people close to him are saying, they're actually saying things like, I don't know if he's going to make it through this trial. His health is deteriorating fast. His mental health, he's crazy. He's so angry. His mental health is horrible. Also, he's not even doing a campaign. He said, I should be in Pennsylvania right now. I should be in other places, Florida, Pennsylvania. Did I say Pennsylvania already? I don't know. I should be there campaigning. Joe Biden's campaigning, and he can't even do it. He can't even put two sentences together. That's a memo that he didn't get. The Republicans do not want to talk about Biden's cognitive abilities anymore because Biden has proven that he's doing just fine, including in last night's Correspondents' Dinner speech. He's barnstorming all of the swing states and more. He's campaigning. He's opened about 500 offices in the swing states. Trump has opened 0 offices in the swing states or anywhere. He laid off people from his campaign a couple weeks ago. He's got no money. Biden's out there campaigning. Trump is saying, I should be out there. And so then on Tuesday, every week they have trial on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. They have Wednesday off. And on Tuesday, a reporter asked Trump, so what are you going to be doing tomorrow? And he goes, what? What's tomorrow? You tell me. What's tomorrow? Seriously, that's his answer. And then he did not campaign on Wednesday. He did nothing on Wednesday. I don't think there's any footage of him doing anything on Wednesday. And then this weekend, on Saturdays, for a while there, he was having these stupid, he calls them a rally. And it's because his people try and get him out to places where people show favor to him so he feels good about himself, because all the people around him and working on his campaign are scared to death of him because he's so pissed off. This Saturday, nothing. There's footage of him invading somebody's party at Mar-a-Lago, grabbing the microphone and just saying, this should have never been brought. This trial should have never been brought. It's the worst thing, some say, that ever happened in the United States, the United States of America. And the camera kind of pans. There's very few people in the room. There's one guy who's like got his back to Trump and he's holding a drink and he's just looking like at the people he's with, just kind of like, oh my God, what is happening right now? And Trump is just complaining. So thank you for coming. And they're kind of like, thank you for coming. We didn't come here for you. It was an embarrassing, very, very embarrassing moment. That's what he did on Saturday. It's like he got out of bed and put a suit on and a circle of brown makeup on his head and went to a room where somebody was having a party at Mar-a-Lago and assumed everybody wanted to see him, but it didn't seem to be the case. Not to mention he's trying to get people to come and protest at his trial. Nobody's coming. He said everything's blocked off. There's tons of proof and video proof that is not true. There was one day where there was one supporter, one day where there was 5 supporters. That's driving him crazy. Everything's driving him crazy. He had a bunch of articles that were favorable toward him, that he pays a woman more than $100,000 a year to just print out favorable reports of him. So then, of course, you have all these people trying to write these things so that they get put in front of his face. And they're all just right-wing, mostly Fox contributors. And they're all writing these things, oh, this trial is a sham, so that Trump sees them. And then Trump wanted to actually enter those into the trial as evidence. They won't even let me read these in court. They took away my First Amendment rights. They won't even let me read these articles in court. It's crazy. I guess what I'm talking about here is the reality is it's going very, very badly for Trump in every way. He's got no money. Biden's got tons of money. Biden's barnstorming, doing a really good campaign, actually, hitting hard, mocking Trump, something the Democrats have not been doing. They should have started decades ago. It's going horrible for Trump. It's going very well for Biden. It's going very well for Democrats all around. We're going to talk more about that. More election results blowing everybody out of the water, surprising everybody because it went against the polls in Pennsylvania. Who knew the primaries were still going on? But the Pennsylvania primary happened this last Tuesday. So we're going to talk about that and some other things, but let's take a break and we'll come right back on A Satellite View.
What do you say to a young progressive or an Arab American who says to you, I just can't vote for Biden again after what he's enabled in Gaza?
I think everyone comes to this prospect and this conversation with a different history, different background, what they bring. You know, for an individual Palestinian American that has had their family killed, I am not here to lecture anyone. I also think that this election is more, in my personal view, I believe this election is about more than president. And also, it's not just one election that's happening. We're having hundreds of elections.
Yes.
The balance of Congress, the balance of the House, the balance of the Senate, and the presidency. And I have a vested interest in protecting democracy, not just here domestically, but globally. And I truly do not believe this as a lesser of two evils type of situation. I think about what conditions do I want to be organizing under in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
We can look at both of these individuals oppositionally as well, depending on what issue you have. But I would rather, even in places of stark disagreement, I would rather be organizing under the conditions of Biden as an opponent on an issue than Trump. He seeks to dismantle American democracy. And I am taking that personally very seriously.
Yes.
Because we will not be able to organize for any movement towards anything if we are facing the jailing of dissidents. I mean, this is the kind of authoritarianism that he threatens.
Fashion.
And we have to take it seriously.
That is AOC, prominent progressive, answering to the people who are really pissed off. And it's not just pissed off, but it's heartbreaking what's going on in Gaza right now against the Palestinian people by the Israeli government. And I think that's the answer. She is young people's progressive leader, in my view. I think she does a great job. She's extremely thoughtful and intelligent. And I agree completely with her answer. If you're angry about how Biden is handling or not handling the situation between Israel and the Palestinians right now, are you going to vote for Trump, or are you going to vote for somebody else that's going to make Trump end up being president? Because it'll be quite a bit worse. Trump wants that to be a parking lot. He wants Gaza to be a parking lot. He'll do anything Netanyahu tells him to do. Trump is the dumbest of the Trumps. Netanyahu is the Israeli Trump. But he's a smarter Trump than the American Trump. It's the same with Vladimir Putin. Trump will do anything these guys want. If Vladimir Putin wants to make Ukraine into a parking lot, Trump will say, let's do it. I'll buy cars and we can start parking them. So these are things we need to keep in mind. We're fighting for democracy, and we need to maintain Joe Biden in the White House. That's the reality. There's not going to be anyone else taking his place other than Trump. There's no way Jill Stein or Kennedy Jr. is going to win anything. I'm not trying to sound like I'm ridiculing you, but you should listen to AOC. Don't listen to me. Listen to AOC. Back to doom scrolling. They want to keep you in despair so that you'll accept and believe anything. You know, they want to make you think everything is so bad, and then they just do something so small. You know, the Republicans will say, hey, we passed the budget. And you're like, yay, you're the best. Wow, great job. Okay, that's the bottom bar of what they're supposed to be doing. They show you that they're so crappy at what they're doing, and then they do one little thing and they expect you to cheer for them. It's not working anymore. And it's because of you and me and all of us. We're not accepting it anymore. So this segment is about the good stuff, right? Yes, it is. I talked to you about Pennsylvania. I said we were going to talk about Pennsylvania just this last Tuesday. The primaries. Both sides, Democratic and Republican. This one is different than some of the other states. This is a closed primary. So the Republicans cannot use as an excuse, well, you know, independents and Democrats are allowed to vote in the Republican primary. That's not true in Pennsylvania. It's a closed primary. You have to be a registered Republican in order to vote in the Republican primary in Pennsylvania. Same with the Democratic side. You have to be a registered Democrat. First of all, Joe Biden got more votes than Obama did in 2012. We all know that Obama won by 5 million votes in 2012. And of course, I don't know the margin of the electoral vote, but he won, obviously, the electoral vote because he was the president. He won that election. Biden's doing better than Obama did in the Pennsylvania primary. And here's a story nobody's talking about. House District 139. Now, this is similar. I've told you my story before. I live in a district where sometimes the Democrats hadn't even ran a candidate before. I ran, and I brought the numbers up 9 percentage points. Now, I still only got 38% of the vote. I got creamed. But the base vote was 29% for the Democrats in my district. And that's why sometimes the Democrats never even ran it's hopeless. We're never going to win. Who in their right mind would run for that? What kind of idiot would run for that seat? Well, I raised my hand. I am your idiot. I ran, and I brought the percentage points up by 9 percentage points. And in this last election, our candidate got 47% of the vote. So we're getting there. I think we have an even better candidate this time, and I think we're going to win. But there's a district in Pennsylvania that is kind of the same. This is a special election, okay? Special election that happened on primary night, I should say that, for House District 139. Entirely rural. The Republican won it by 58% to 42%, by 16 percentage points. Now, Trump won it in 2020 by 28 points. That means that this Democrat brought the percentage points up by 11. That's incredible. Nobody was expecting that. Democrats overperforming. That is the story of the last 8 years. Democrats overperforming in every election, special elections, midterm elections. That's incredible. There is a suburban county of Delaware County. Nikki Haley got 46%. 46%, nearly half of the Republicans in a suburban county voted for somebody other than Trump. Nikki Haley, who pulled out of the race 2 months ago? In that same district, Biden got 97%. So, the Dean Phillips / Nikki Haley story, Dean Phillips got 3%. Nikki Haley got 46% in that suburban county. Statewide, Nikki Haley got 158,000 votes. 18% of the Republicans in the state of Pennsylvania voted for Nikki Haley instead of Donald Trump. This is incredible and absolutely and completely devastating to Donald Trump. And as you've heard on this show and elsewhere, this has happened in multiple states, many, many states. Trump needs to be gaining votes, and he's losing them horribly. Now, I haven't seen exit polls as far as these Nikki Haley voters saying they're going to vote for Biden. I've seen no exit polls like we've seen in other states. But still, that's just overwhelming. She got 158,000 votes. In 2020, Biden won Pennsylvania by 80,000 votes. That means that he's poised to win by over 200,000 votes in 2024. And in fact, in this primary, he got 200,000 more votes than Trump did in this primary. And that's a lot because of Nikki Haley getting 158,000 votes. I don't know if I'm making these numbers make sense to you, but it's a blowout. It's an absolute blowout. And as far as the doom scrolling, making you think that women love me. Women love me. I got the women vote. Don't worry. I'll take care of them. This is Sarah Longwell, who runs the Republican Voters Against Trump organization. She does all these forums. Here's a clip of some women that she talked to, Republican voting women that she talked to.
He is arrogant and egotistical, an adulterer, brash and self-consumed, and he shows utter disdain toward women and those of other races. He intimidates, cheats, he lies and steals.
And the plans that Donald Trump has laid out shows me that we would be at risk if he was in the White House. Women are at risk.
He does not show the love of Jesus in his treatment of people when he talks down to them, when he mistreats them, with the number of cases that women are brought against him.
As an individual and as a woman with integrity, I do not like the way he has spoken about women, especially women of power.
This is Sarah Longwell, who runs the Republican Voters Against Trump.
Yeah, so I've been doing focus groups recently on the issue of abortion with women. And one of the things that's been interesting is that, a lot of times when new issues really come to prominence or salience in voters' minds, it's because of a combination of things. And I think the combination of the abortion repeal in Arizona, this 1864 law that completely bans abortion, even in the cases of rape and incest, along with the Stormy Daniels trial, which reminds people of just how gross Trump is to women. The women in these groups were incredibly vocal about just sort of, and I hadn't heard it in a long time. You know, a lot of this stuff, it is baked in with so many voters, Trump's sort of the misogyny, the gross way he talks about women, but it is increased in salience because of these issues coming together right now. And so the women in these groups, especially obviously the groups that were in Arizona, were talking a lot about this case and how they can't believe that he's even allowed to run again. These were swing voters, and just how despicable his behavior is to women. And it was one of the things really keeping them from having any interest in going back to voting for him, even though they tended to be sort of center-right independents and soft GOP voters.
Okay, so that's the women. Now you're hearing in regular media them saying, oh, for some reason, the black vote is going toward Trump more than it ever has before. Okay, I don't know if you know John Legend. He's a music guy, but he's hugely popular. He's also a very highly intelligent, smart guy, and he's politically inclined and active. He is supporting Biden, and here's why he is supporting Biden, according to him.
That being said, at the same time, you know, he's claiming credit for those small things. He's also saying, you know, if people are stealing something, they should get shot in the middle of the store. When we protested the killing of George Floyd, he was advocating for the military to shoot us in the streets. He's made it clear throughout his life that he believes black people are inferior. Like he believes that to his core, in his bones. He wouldn't let us live in his buildings back in the day. But also, when you hear some of the stray comments he makes, he clearly believes in a genetic hierarchy of humanity and is racially determined. So he is a tried and true, dyed-in-the-wool racist. Like, in the core of his being, he's a racist. So I don't want to hear what he has to say about what he's done for black people. He's done very little for us. And he is, at his core, truly a racist. And you even hear what he says about immigration and which countries he wants people to come in from. They all are very white.
That is true. That's something pretty universal about them. So I knew you were active on the campaign trail in 2020. You have a lot on your plate. Are you going to be out there campaigning for Joe Biden this fall?
Yeah, we'll get out there probably later in the year as it gets close to people making decisions about when it's time to vote. I think the choice is very clear.
That's what John Legend says. Of course, if you think Trump is gaining black voters, you're being fooled. I'm not calling you a fool, but you're being fooled. You can't just sell some sneakers because they love their sneakers. You can't do that and gain. That is an insult. He insults black people all the time, as John Legend says. I also mentioned some of the legacy media, mainstream media. Margaret Brennan, just this morning, interviewed Mitch McConnell, and she was not letting him get away with his BS. She was grilling him. It was quite glorious. She was grilling him, not letting him get away with his BS of, yes, Trump is morally responsible for the death that happened on January 6th, but then now saying, oh, yeah, I endorse Donald Trump because he's the Republican nominee. The voters have said the Republican voter. And she's like, really? She just would not let him get away with it. Nor did Caitlin Collins on CNN let Bill Burr, not Bill Burr, we love Bill Burr, Bill Barr. I keep making that. Bill Burr is a great comedian who's super funny. Bill Barr is a horrible piece of crap who should not have the privilege of calling himself a human being. Caitlin Collins was not letting him do his BS. She was doing the same thing. Like, how can you say all the things you've said about Trump, that he's absolutely the worst person you've ever met, and that he's totally incapable and would be dangerous as being president, and now you're saying you're going to vote for him and you're going to support him. How can you do that? And he kept saying, well, and she was like, what? Come on. Really? Really? I was very proud of both of these. And that's happening more and more. The Republican BS machine is just not working anymore. And I think the legacy media like Margaret Brennan and Caitlin Collins, they're starting to see that people are turning to alternative news sources. Midas Touch Network, I highly recommend on YouTube. There are other sources as well. We've already gone over time, but I do want to just point out a couple other things that are fun. Gateway Pundit, a vile media source, is basically done. They ended up getting sued for some of the stuff they said about Shaye Moss and her mom. That lawsuit went to Gateway Pundit, and they just filed for bankruptcy. Gateway Pundit purveying some of the most some of the most vile lies of the last decade, and they're going down. Listen to the episode from last week, and we talk more about right-wing media being decimated. They're losing their viewers and listeners amazingly by 80, 90%. Again, listen to last week's episode. I've got details on that. But another one bites the dust this week, Gateway Pundit. Here's another thing that happened. Formula One car racing. There's a car race in Miami, Formula One race in Miami next Sunday. And some guy has a suite in the stadium, and he's decided he's going to charge people $250,000 to come into this suite, and it's a fundraiser for Trump. Then we find out that on Trump's schedule, the Secret Service is taking him to that stadium for the race. You think Trump is really interested in Formula One racing? So this guy, he's a member of Formula One, and he's renting a suite at their race, or I think he gets it because of his membership, and then he wants to secretly turn that into a Trump fundraiser. Formula One found out about it, and they gave him a cease and desist letter, and they said, if you do this, if you charge people to come into your suite and you give that money to Trump, you will lose your membership. So you need to tell us that you are not going to do that, or we're going to take away your membership and you're not going to be at that race. Wow, right? And of course, we've all heard about Kristi Noem, who many people thought was the top contender to be Trump's VP choice. Hot woman, having tons of plastic surgery done to her face, turning her lips more duck-like. That's what Trump, that's what you have to do. Just look at Alina Habba, for instance, who, by the way, he did not miss her birthday. He missed Melania's birthday because I'm in trial. Well, you could go home at night. Did you go home at night and spend time with Melania on her birthday this last Friday? Probably not, but he was at Alina Habba's birthday. Anyway, you can do what you want with your face. I'm just saying that there seems to be prerequisites to be in Trump's good graces. Kristi Noem just wrote a book. Here's how intelligent she is. She decided to include in her book that she shot a 14-month-old puppy that apparently was her daughter's. At least her daughter was like, hey, where's Cricket? That's the name of the dog. She shoots the dog, throws it in a gravel pit. The bus comes home. Her daughter gets out of the bus and says, hey, where's Cricket? So now everybody says every time she shows up in public, there's going to be a huge crowd saying, hey, where's Cricket? She also did the same to a goat, apparently. Shot him, threw him in a gravel pit. And she decides to write that in her book because it makes her more endearing. This is what they're working with. The brain matter is not firing anymore. Brain matter has electricity in it. Their electricity their generator has seemed to run out of gas. And they won't allow electric generators because that takes away gas generators. So their brain matter just has no electricity in it anymore. Yeah, one more thing. No, we don't have time. I'll talk about that next week because there's still going to be more on the trials. I guess this is going to be a big cliffhanger, right? You got to tune in next week to hear what I have written down as my final 2 points. But we've gone overtime on both of these segments. It's going to take me forever to edit this episode. But we're feeling good, right? We're on here to keep each other sane in these insane times. But can you feel it getting better? Can you feel it turning more positive? I sure can. And I see it. It's because it's real. It's real. So please come back and listen to this show. I'm going to do my best to help you get through these times. We'll do it together. Help each other argue for things that are good and against things that are bad. That's what we do here on A Satellite View. Yes, there are horrible things going on, but we're going to fix them. If not during this show, if not during this next week, if not during this next year, but let us begin. I might end every show with that. I don't know. Write in comments if you think that's obnoxious or not. So thanks so much for listening to this episode, and we'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.